This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
Welcome back. We got a new name, but Joey and I are here for our 7th season. MRN Out Loud, the new iteration of our show. Going to be a little more chatty, not so much breakdown, and a lot more to come, a lot of storytelling. We're going to have some fun. Let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear. MRN.com, MRN Out Loud. Well, 500 is in the books.
19, not a lot to talk about.
No,
really.
Nothing happened.
The offseason was quiet. The rules changes, really no employment changes for anybody to really discuss. I've got this cool hat.
Yeah, what's up with that hat? What's going on there?
This really cool hat.
Yeah.
What a week. Speedweeks is an unusual situation where you're down there at the same location for 2 complete weekends. Some different weekday activities has changed throughout the years. We used to be at the track almost the entire 10 days, but now we have 2 solid weekends down there. And the only time we really have ever done that in the past is when Mother Nature rained things out. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the schedule allows us to have the clash and qualifying on one weekend, and then we have the 4 days of dual 150s on Thursday, truck race on Friday, Xfinity race on Saturday, and then a fantastic capping at the end of that weekend with the Daytona 500. And all 3 days brought to me as a spectator, because I was able to watch from the roof, different elements of.
Did you work either of the truck or Xfinity races?
So I was supposed to work a truck race, and how that works is a friend of mine, Josh Williams, who spots for Ryan Blaney, he kind of manages a couple of truck teams from the spotter side of things. He offers up for me to do a truck on a weekly basis, and I was going to spot for Josh Rayum in the 33 truck. Not really a start and park, but a lower funded truck. They want to finish the race. They don't expect that they're going to go out and win. So Josh is going to hand me the 33. He's going to spot the 34. The 34 didn't make the race. So I actually went to Josh and I go, look, it's only right that you've been doing all this. So I gave up my truck. Again, it's a start and park truck. Ran 6th. It was awesome.
Well, there were only 9 running at the finish.
But it was awesome.
Honest.
With 5 or 10 to go, he's on the roof under these yellow red flags, and we're texting back and forth. Get me a hat in victory lane. Like, this is hilarious. So Josh Williams and Josh Rayum did a fantastic job missing all the carnage that we had there in the truck race to bring home that truck 6. And I actually talked to Josh Rayum on Saturday. They drove home all night, and we're already working on that truck to prepare it for Atlanta. So that was pretty cool, because that'd be the same truck they run from Daytona to Atlanta.
Which helps the bottom line, helps the budget.
Exactly right. And then on Saturday, I was able to watch the race. Unfortunate set of circumstances with the Penske car in the 12 and the roof hatch, very unusual.
I had their pits, and they thrashed on that thing for 4 pit stops, and every time they thought they had it, it was almost as if it was stripped and it wasn't holding on to the escape hatch better. Now, the escape hatch is different from the roof flaps. The escape hatch is so if the driver gets the car upside down or sideways or something and can't get out the window, he's got another way to get out.
Yep. Years ago, we had the first little trivia. We actually won a race with Michael Waltrip. We had the very first roof hatch installed back in the day.
I remember when those, and they had to make it extra wide for him to get through it.
And he actually got in the grass and then popped out of the hatch as part of his victory
and everybody
lane.
went, oh, wow,
exactly.
Look at that. Yeah.
And then Saturday brought a first-time winner. Friday night brought a first-time winner.
Yeah.
Saturday was a first-time winner. Again, long-time participant with Michael Annette, 200 and some odd races he had. So kudos to those guys. And then again, what we saw Sunday was...
Hold on a second. Interesting note on that is we talked to Dale Jr. in Victory Lane afterwards, and one of the things that he pointed out was how they had struggled to find exactly what Michael Annette needed, and he feels like it's going to be huge for him to have Travis Mack, who was with the Hendrick Junior Motorsports family, then went to Levine to work with Casey Kane. When that thing changed, he was available, came back, and now they think that's going to be a really good combination, and it worked in week 1.
You never know. Again, listeners of the show for the last 6 years, because now we're in our 7th year. If you want to go back and listen to it, you can find it on MRN.com, I'm sure. We've always talked about this being a relationship. Spotter, driver, crew chief, pit crews, owners. It's a relationship. It's a little bit of a marriage because we spend a lot of time. Sometimes they simply don't work or they work okay. You get through. You know, Michael Annette's made the playoffs the last couple of years, really wasn't the guy you thought was going to contend for the championship. So you're always trying to mix and match, kind of like a recipe, adding a little salt, adding a little pepper, taking a garlic out.
Yeah.
You're trying to match it
You
up.
can't get that garlic back out once you put it in. Just a tip there.
Can you have too much garlic?
I think you probably can.
I love garlic.
Yeah.
I'm a real big fan of garlic.
Anyway.
So you're looking for that relationship to just get better. And those guys made those changes in the offseason. Dale Jr. had a number of changes over at Junior Motorsports, but the one big one that paid off immediately was bringing Travis Mack, or T-Mac, as everybody calls him, his crew chief, over to Michael Annette. And Michael drove a great race, had a good spotter up top, and was able to keep that lead there at the end.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. Justin Allgaier, his teammate right there, gives Junior Motorsports a 1-2 finish on the Xfinity side. But here's the thing. All week long, we heard, oh, they're not racing. Oh, they're running single file. Oh, they're not going to do anything. Well, we get to Sunday, and they do go too wide, primarily because it was warmer. There was an ability for more, stronger cars to develop another lane. Yep. Chase Elliott tried and tried and tried in the Xfinity race and just couldn't get enough cars to go with him to make it happen. On Sunday, it was different with 40 cars out there and some strong cars willing to go to the bottom. When it was slick and hot and greasy, they could make something happen.
Yeah, really, realistically, it's about a numbers game. It's strength in numbers. Two similar lines. One has more cars is really going to be more dominant or stronger. And with Chase trying to make his moves on Saturday by himself, he was a single car trying to compete against 10 or 15 other cars.
He could get 2 or 3, but not enough.
It's it, you know, and now we go to Sundays for the 500. And in the past, we've always seen Cinderella-type storybook stories going in. Whether it was Danica Patrick's first race, where did she end up? On the pole. The 3-car coming.
I thought you meant at the end of the race.
No.
Okay.
Coming back, she sat on the pole right for the start of the race. The 3-car coming back in the industry after 18 years ago today. Dale Earnhardt Sr. passed away. They brought the 3 back with Dylan. Where'd he end up? On the pole.
Yeah.
So there was those kind of storybook endings. So now as we look into Daytona, you're like, okay, what's the storybook, right? What could be the culmination, the ending, the exclamation point of some kind of story? Unfortunately, the Gibbs family lost J.D. Gibbs, which is a touching story. We can go back and talk about that for a number of times.
He's the guy that hired Denny Hamlin originally.
Found him at a Hickory test, a Hickory Motor Speedway test.
And a little known fact, J.D. used to drive late models a lot. When we were doing TV out there at Concord, he was driving late models out there then. So I got to know him years ago before all the Joe Gibbs racing went and blew up to what it is today.
Correct, and drove a number of Busch races as well for the Gibbs family early on. Him and Coy were very involved in the motorsport side, motorcycles and race cars. But then at the end of the day, you know, the good Lord has ways of making things work out. A Gibbs 1-2-3 finish with the number of 11 bringing home his second Daytona 500 in a matter of 4 years. So they've been really good there.
Fantastic. All right, let's hear what happened after the race. A lot of emotion from the Gibbs camp.
Coach Gibbs, 1-2-3 finish. Yeah. Denny for the second win, and to be able to honor JD. What does this one mean to you?
I got to tell you, it's so emotional right now. I called Pat, she's crying, Melissa, all the boys. It's just, I'm not sure I can put together what happened tonight. JD really found Denny, and Denny and JD had that relationship. JD's on the car. His favorite number's 11. We had the 11 lap was a celebration for JD. I got to tell you, I'm just emotionally right now. I know people say, hey, things can happen. That couldn't happen.
It sure did. And how about the way it worked out? I mean, that is the storybook.
Yeah,
the storybook ending.
That's exactly right. And at the end of the day, you realize that we're just a speck in the big sign of the universe, right? Because there's no way that you would try to get and have team meetings. Look, there are 3 manufacturers, Toyota, Ford, and Chevrolet. Every manufacturer has their team meetings to try to work together. At no point in time do they go in there and go, okay, we want Kyle to follow Denny, and Eric Jones, your responsibility is to follow Kyle because he's going to be following Denny. It's simply you could not coordinate that and try to plan it out after 200 laps, and yet somehow it happened.
And speaking of guys following other guys, you had Joey Logano up there at the front toward the end, and Ryan Preece, who I don't know how he escaped twice, but he did when it didn't look like there was any way to get through there. He somehow finds a way. He says, I'm sticking with Joey Logano here in this close. If he goes to the parking lot, I'm following him. Michael McDowell was there. They had 3 cars on the move. McDowell pulls out to try to make his own move. Joey's upset with him after the race, but McDowell says, my team doesn't pay me to help you win.
Yeah, we've talked again on this show about this the sport being a very selfish sport.
Especially at the
That's
end.
it. So you're wanting a guy, A, that's in your same manufacturer's camp to help you, because anytime you get help is better. And then B, you don't want them helping another manufacturer.
Right.
But Michael, being the selfish guy that he is, we all know Michael McDowell.
Speaking of storybooks, how huge would it have been if he won?
And that's what he's thinking about. He's not thinking about manufacturers and drivers. He's looking out after himself, which is what, when you put the helmet on, should be your primary responsibility. So kudos to those guys. Yes, it wasn't good for Joey Logano and the Ford manufacturer. Yes, it would have been better for Joey Logano and the Ford manufacturer because they actually gave up a spot to the 20 car there at the end. But again, Michael McDowell is a completely religious, one of the more religious people in the family in the racing side. If he doesn't make the move, the 20 car doesn't finish third. And
That's
that
true.
gives them the first, second, and third. So that's my storybook ending on how that Cinderella
As they
story.
say on the listing for the shows, and then fate intervened.
Exactly
yeah, it
right.
did. All right, we got to take a time out on MRN Out Loud. Joey's going to tell us how he wound up from the 2 car to the 21 car. He's got a little soapbox if his chair operates correctly. We're going to talk about a little bit later on, and we're going to spend more time looking ahead at Atlanta because that will be, contrary to what some folks thought, the debut of the new 2019 package, but not all of it. Stay with us.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I'm on that onion and bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So cold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
After more than 1 million hours of development, the truck of the future has arrived. The new Cascadia from Freightliner. Inspired by science, driven by passion. It's loaded with driver-focused improvements, such as noise abatement technologies for an even quieter ride, an innovative wraparound dashboard for improved comfort, and a reimagined driver's lounge that promotes productivity and relaxation. Experience the new Cascadia at your dealer or online at Freightliner.com.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice, Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Logano looks low. Hamlin throws the block for the final time on the back straightaway. Kyle Busch up the outside lane.
Gets a good look in the outside lane, but it's not enough. Here's Joey Logano back to the inside. This side-by-side battle, 2 car lengths behind race leader Denny Hamlin.
Off turn 4 for the final time. Denny Hamlin's trying to block all lanes. He's to the outside, to the inside, to the checkered flag. Denny Hamlin has won the 61st edition of the Daytona 500.
Alex Hayden calling Denny Hamlin home for the 50th MRN presentation of the Great American Race, and he gets it done for the second time, does Hamlin, and it was really something to see. We need to mention as well that MRN Out Loud is presented by Outback Steakhouse. If Kevin Harvick gets a top 10 finish, you can go to Outback Steakhouse on Monday and get a free bloomin' onion. And it's always cool to have more free stuff.
It's Monday. You can still go.
You can go.
You can go.
Yeah, just got to wait for Harvick to get a top 10. And if history is any indication, he's going to be giving away a lot of onions.
I had one on Friday.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. All by yourself,
right,
or did you have some help?
No, we had 4 of us there.
Okay.
We had 4 of us there. There's an Outback right by the Speedway as you come out of the tunnel.
I was going to say, that's quite a feat if you finish that whole thing by yourself.
We used to.
Yeah.
Before we started counting calories.
Yeah, and before the weight would go on and then come back off again. It goes on just as easy. It doesn't come off as easy now.
But before they actually had a calorie count, it's amazing what I used to eat.
Oh, yeah.
And not feel bad about it. But now everything has like I had a Hershey bar last night sitting at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I did was open it up and look at the calories. I'm not making this
That's
up.
how things change.
I cracked it in half and then threw the half of it away.
What was the number?
It was like 150 calories.
And it was just the regular size?
Yeah,
Hershey
regular
bar?
size Hershey bar. So my cracking it in half made it a diet Hershey bar.
There you go. Very nice. Well done.
It's half the calories.
Sometimes you have to improvise.
Half the calories of the regular bar. Yeah.
All right, let's back up a minute.
Yep.
You were spotting for Paul Menard.
I was
on Sunday and on Thursday and on the previous Sunday.
Say it ain't so.
You were with the 2 car last year. How did you get How did you get another number? It was 2 and then 21.
Well,
you just added a 1.
Yeah, this is Joey version 2.1.
Okay. Oh, that's what it is.
It's
You need to talk to Wood Brothers and putting a little dot there between the numbers.
This is Joey version 2.1.
Right.
So, I was with Brad Keselowski. We had a great run for the last
championship.
Yep, last 9 years, multiple championships with the Cup side and the Xfinity side, multiple race wins. As Brad was manufacturing or moving into a manufacturing business, he had some plans on the flight department side that he wanted me to partake in. We talked about it. We sit down, and it meant me coming off the roof. And originally, I thought I was going to be okay doing that with what the opportunity was that he presented with me.
Mm-hmm.
After Homestead, I realized I still love this sport. I love racing. I love the competition.
Sometimes you don't until it's gone, right?
And the way as a guy working in the garage that you still enjoy the sport is the agony of defeat is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So when you walk away from a race that you could have won, or like yesterday's event where we wrecked with 10 to go, it's the agony of defeat that keeps driving you. And that makes no sense because you're like, well, if my hand hurts and I hit it with a hammer, why would I keep hitting it with a hammer, right? Well, if you like hammers, that's what you do. Well, that's how this racing thing works.
Wait, are you the hammer or the nail here?
Well, it was my hand. Yeah, exactly.
All right, I got you.
So the problem was Brad's agenda's changed a little bit because he's moving in a different direction because he's starting to look forward. Not that it's going to be next year or anytime soon, but he's looking outside of racing, which is really cool.
I went up there for that, and
it's beautiful.
They'll be able to make a Terminator there, it looks
exactly.
like. Yeah.
So that's great for his side, and it really was good for me to stay in racing. So we actually have a very amicable split, if you will. I'm still flying his airplane on a contract as needed basis. I flew him home from Daytona last night. We'll fly him to Atlanta, do some West Coast stuff as the year goes on. But then I had an opportunity that when Mr. Penske called me and said, hey, I understand you're thinking about coming off the roof. And I'm like, well, I don't want to come off the roof. And he said, well, let's talk. And then there was an opportunity that to go spot for the 21 in the Wood Brothers. Paul Menard and I have a relationship back at DEI. We were able to win a bush race.
Just goes to show you why you should never burn bridges in this industry in particular.
I live off a lot of goofy sayings, and one of them that I always repeat is today's employer is tomorrow's employee.
That's true.
Right? And every bridge that we walk on in this industry is made of toothpicks. And they burn up real fast, and you just can't afford to burn one because you never know when you're going to walk across
soaked
it.
in kerosene.
Yeah. like old Christmas trees, exactly. So fortunately, the Wood Brothers accepted me over, and I'm able to spot for Paul Menard. Greg Irwin's my crew chief, who I worked with over in the Xfinity side at Team Penske. I'm flying for Victory Air, which is a little regional airliner out of Statesville.
And they fly a lot of the race teams.
You actually fly on it now, so that's kind of cool. My wife's one of the flight attendants on there. So I was able to stay in the sport.
She can keep an eye on you that way.
Yeah, thankfully. But I was able to stay in the sport, stay spotting, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that comes out well in the end, but may not look like it when you're in the thick of the weeds.
I tweeted something yesterday, and again, knowing how we just talked about the top 3 finishers in J.D. Gibbs, my dad entered the 1958 race on the beach with a Sportsman Modified.
I saw those pictures. Really cool.
I tweeted the starting lineup. Again, thinking that this is 1958. The pole winner was Glenn Wood in a Sportsman car, beating all the modifieds. If you go all the way to the very bottom of that list, that's my dad, Freddie Meyer, who was also in that race. So again, there's a connection from 1958. Now, yesterday was my very first full-time race with the Daytona 500
What are
guys.
the odds of something like that?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you would never have guessed all those people on that list that these two guys would have family working together, so many years apart. So it's kind of cool.
How's it different spotting for Paul versus Brad? What does each want?
The one thing that when we went into this personal relationship, Paul was able to grab audio. All teams have audio from the drivers and spotters. And what he said is, don't change. The reason we're making a change is we're going to go in a different direction. We want more information. The previous spotter was doing a good job. And just like I talked to you earlier in this show, it's about relationships. Sometimes they get along. You're just trying to make them a little bit better. It's not that they were doing anything wrong. We're just looking to increase some performance aspect of it. And Paul said, what the information you're giving Brad, it's going to take me a little time getting used to, but I want that to be able to make better decisions. And really, that's what he really pressed on me about was don't change.
Yeah.
All right. So when we worked on the Clash, we worked on the duels. After those 2 races, we sat down, and some of the verbiage that I started using actually came new to me was, compression, expansion. Years ago, I used energy, trying to use single words that described large pictures.
Instead of a sentence. Yeah.
And that, again, when the cars are going 190 miles an hour, it's kind of important.
Yeah, you move a long way in a sentence.
So Paul was very happy. The minute I said compression 5 rows back, he knew what that meant. The minute I said expansion 5 rows back, he knew what I meant.
Like an accordion.
That's it. And those are the kind of things because when we have energy, energy comes from someplace. You don't ride around car length apart for 5 rows and nothing happens, right? You have to have some compression. When we saw the incident at our Clash race, when Jimmy Johnson got to our corner panel, we were actually able to go back and see Jimmy drug the brake to get back to the 3rd place car. That created some compression.
And then momentum.
That had a release of energy, and he was able to get by us. And that's what you're talking about on the radio, describing that picture to him. And we sat down after the 2 races, and he was very happy with him being able to understand what I talked about. So we'll go to Atlanta now and get to do it again because of the new package.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to be interesting. I saw early in Speedweeks a lot of folks were saying, well, this new package is not really doing what I thought it was going to do, and it's not the new package yet. This is the old package, and that was the last restrictor plate race because we're going to the tapered spacer now, which I talked with Doug Yates a while back at a Ford event, and he kind of described it like as opposed to just a flat plate with a hole in it, it's now more like a funnel, so it pushes air down into the engine more efficiently, and it gives the guys a little bit more throttle response. It still does the same thing, just does it a little differently.
Yeah, we're still restricting or controlling the amount of air going into the engine. The one thing that the reason we didn't go with the slope quote, if you're not watching online and I'm doing the air quotes, we didn't go with a tapered spacer at Daytona. The technology behind a restrictor plate engine is immense. And Toyota, TRD, and Roush Yates and all the Chevrolet teams had so many restrictor plate engines really ready for the first part of the year that they essentially begged NASCAR not to let us throw those motors away.
Right. Why just throw them in the trash?
So this was kind of like a going away party for all the restrictor plate guys.
They kind of acted like it at the end.
Exactly right. That's it. So it worked out good for Joe Gibbs Racing. The Toyotas had plenty of power. But now we start what's considered the new engine package. And of all the other changes.
But not quite the full Monty.
No,
not until we get
yet.
to Vegas.
That's it. So we have, but from the engine package, that will be the tapered spacer.
Yeah.
So from here on out, there's only 2 engine packages. Short tracks, essentially Bristol, Martinsville, and road courses. And then all other tracks with the tapered spacer. So now we only have 2 engine profiles really to worry about.
And a little bit of a different package on the aero side with the ducts around the wheels. That'll be at places like Atlanta,
like ducks,
Pocono,
like
those type of places where you want a little more throttle and you don't have to be in the brakes as much because you got to with this new engine package, for lack of a better phrase. I'm getting so tired of saying package. You need a little more throttle response than we saw, for example, in the All-Star race.
Yeah, so and that's what the combination we'll have to keep up with, but essentially we're trying to keep the competition closer, keep the cars closer. We're aero.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Exactly right. And it'll be interesting to see. Atlanta will be the first test for this new big spoiler, larger splitter, underneath pan, and tapered engine spacer.
All right. Joey's about to get up on the soapbox. We'll take a timeout, and we'll talk a little more package when we come back.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I'm on that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
ISM Raceway got some major upgrades. NASCAR fans, come and see what all the buzz.
You have a racetrack that's created an unbelievable challenge for this restart.
Bumping.
Has to jack up. He catches the 38. The 38 spins.
And cheering is about.
Kyle Busch is going to win in the desert.
Mark your calendar for the Ticket Guardian 500, March 8th through 10th. Get the best remaining tickets now at ismraceway.com.
Winged Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham, and Ashley Stremme. Your destination for all things winged sprint cars. Each Saturday at 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. on MAV TV. Live at noon on wingednation.com and Facebook Live. Join us for in-depth conversations with drivers and personalities that make up the greatest dirt racing on earth. The Winged Nation Preview Podcast each Thursday previews the upcoming weekend. Winged Nation, winged sprint car talk covering dirt tracks all across America.
Single file, top 5 up the back straightaway. Austin Hill again throws to block topside. Infinger looking but doesn't make a move.
They're playing bumper cars 1 through 5. Hill still has the lead. Infinger pushing him, looking outside. Hill goes up to block. He's your leader coming to the checker.
Here they come out of turn number 4 for the final time. Blocks being thrown left and right to the line. Checkered flag. Austin Hill is a Daytona winner. Austin Hill will win the Next Era Energy Resources 250.
Now, let's not make it sound like this is in some ways it is, but the Cinderella story where a guy comes out of nowhere, now about to become the Masters champion. This was a good driver who found himself in good equipment. This is the championship team from a year ago, Hattori Racing Enterprises. So Austin Hill didn't suddenly just discover some magic in the equipment that he had before. He's now with the defending championship team and was able to get through all the carnage and make that pay off. This weekend, it'll be the doubleheader at Atlanta, and I love that. What a value ticket. You get the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series on the same day, Saturday at Atlanta. That's a value.
Yeah, Mother Nature might be making a triple header.
Hey. No.
Might be
Don't go down that road.
Might be a triple header.
Stop it.
But that's a great story with a driver change, with Brett Moffitt leaving the team due to financial issues, or not issues, relationships.
Somebody came with more dollars.
Exactly it. With Austin Hill, he was able to provide more support, which all these teams provide. Where it comes from it's a dumb argument because we all look for sponsorship dollars. If the driver is the guy giving you the sponsorship dollars, who cares?
Yeah.
It's still coming from somewhere. Whether it comes from your mom or the driver or the guy next door, you're still going to spend it on racing.
I should call my mom and ask if she'll sponsor me.
And then Brett Moffitt goes over and displaces a previous champion with
Johnny Sauter.
Johnny Sauter.
Yeah.
He ends up going back up to his old job at ThorSport.
So
it's
kind
of
musical
chairs.
Johnny did say, by the way, I talked to him Thursday. I talked to Johnny, and that was kind of his first public appearance since they announced that he was going to be back at ThorSport. And he said, this is it for me, no matter what happens. Whether Duke Thorson says this is a 1-year deal or a 3-year deal, I'm not going anywhere else.
Right. Well,
so that's good for him.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, it's that time of the show, I think.
Yeah, it is. You got your soapbox ready to go?
I do.
All right.
Yeah,
What's in the soapbox?
One of the
You
things.
hear the bubbles popping.
Yeah, tiny bubbles.
That's Don Ho.
One of the things we heard all weekend up until the Daytona 500, and they actually mentioned it in the drivers' meeting. Steve Phelps said, "I hope some drivers get out of line." And
that was Jim France.
Jim France.
Yeah.
I hope people get out of line and follow Denny around. He was kind of antagonizing him to let's go some racing.
He
right?
didn't say, you guys better.
I get it. Several weeks back, we saw one of the biggest NFL games of the year, their Super Bowl. And everybody was upset that it was only 13-3 because there was no offense.
And that's what it's all geared towards.
I watched the game with a level. I started the game out. I didn't care anything about it.
Didn't have a dog in the fight.
Nope, didn't care. But I watched it and became more intrigued as the game went on because of the lack of offense. And I was waiting for that bubble to pop, an explosion of scoring, of run. Right, I was waiting. Who's going to be the first guy?
That's happened several times in the Super Bowl.
And it really never did. But it intrigued me from that standpoint, from a defensive stand. That was a great defensive game. Boy, both defensive coordinators and head coaches had a tremendous game plan to counteract the offensive nature of both teams. Now we go to racing side. We're at the speedways, and everybody's mad that we have cars, in the duels that we spent 2 months at least racing, and we're going to protect these cars, but we're riding around the high lane single file. I look at that as the same mentality as the NFL. I was waiting in the duel. We ran the first race. We finished third, I believe, fourth, whatever it was. But I was watching that second race, waiting for somebody to jump out of line because we jumped out of line in the first race coming off of turn 4, and we actually talked about it right away. Probably waited a little. It was too late for that.
Yeah.
We should have done it earlier. We had the momentum. We really couldn't carry it off of turn 4. Maybe we should have done it a corner earlier. Lo and behold, the end of that race, you're waiting. Who's going to do it? Who's going to follow me? Who am I going to jump out of line and be able to pass? And boom, we see Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney jump out of line to turn 1. They make the pass. Boom. That's what restrictor plate racing is about. One of the most complicated games in the world is chess. And part of the most
more of a checkers guy.
Part of the most excitement part of it is a guy staring at the board and nothing's going on. But if you could get inside of his brain, there's all kinds of calculations going on.
What if?
And that's exactly what goes on against the High Line. Those guys aren't out for a Sunday drive. They're still going over 190 miles an hour, controlling their cars on the edge of out of control. And they're waiting, they're calculating, they're thinking, they're looking in their rearview mirror, they're looking at their spotter, they're listening to him determine who's going to make the energy, where is it going to come from, when am I going to make my move?
And who might or might not go with me.
Sometimes it's not visually pleasing, but mentally it's exhausting from a driver's standpoint because there's so much thinking. Now we fast forward to Sunday. Yes, we ran 2-wide for several rows for a number of laps, but realistically there wasn't any more passing going on than had we gotten against the wall. So my soapbox today really has to do with, let's stop the nonsense about those guys are just riding around. They're not just riding around. There are a lot of calculated moves that are trying to predetermine, because if I make the move and it's wrong, it's going to cost me. But if I make the move and somebody comes with me, it's a victory.
But you don't know that until you
do.
You
don't, and you're trying to work the deals. The spotters are talking. The drivers are giving hand signals.
Yeah, how does that go, by the way? You guys on the roof trying to make deals. Is it sort of like the old SNL skit where, the What Is Love song, and they're like, me, you, you're me, you?
Yes. So when we got a lap down, here's an example. We got a lap down after Paul went a little fast on pit road, and we were trying to catch the group in front of us. The 38 was by himself. Rocky said, he waved.
Yeah.
He waved back at me, which meant I knew right away he's waiting on me. He's coming back to me. So then when we got lined up, I felt like we were a faster car based on the fact that he was out front by himself. We were by ourselves. Our lap times were faster. So I gave the old hand motion I'm going around you. Let's drag. Without saying anything, he knew exactly what I meant. And you communicate a lot through eyes and hand signals.
Because you can't really stop and take off your headset and go
right.
talk to somebody
write a note.
while they're going
hey, how you
200
doing?
miles an hour.
Exactly right. So luckily with Rocky and myself, we're both 20-year veterans on the roof. You know kind of how the race is going. He knew that we needed help, and he knew that we were faster. So all those hand signals made sense. But most of your verbal activity goes on during cautions. And there towards the end of the race, there was a lot of talking going on because there was a lot of cautions and them red flags.
All right, before we move on, I wanted to get one more thing out. You mentioned the riding up against the wall. Several drivers I talked to had said it's not because that's what we love to do or what we want to do. It's sort of like a baseline. I can defend here, in particular, my right rear, because the way you pass a guy, if he's not up against the wall, is you get to his right rear, make him a little unstable, then you can go by him. So that was a protective move. If I get my right rear up against the wall, nobody can get to it and get me unstable. Then the calculating starts about when to make the move and who to go with and that type of thing.
Absolutely. It's a matter of, again, it's a selfish sport, man. I will say it 1,000 times in my lifetime. It's a very selfish sport. I'm not against the wall trying to help you.
Yeah.
I'm against the wall because it's helping me.
Yeah.
Well, if you're against the wall and you're helping you and I'm against the wall, we just happen to be in the same line.
Right.
We're protecting each other. You're not protecting me and vice versa. I'm after myself and you're after yourself. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting, but it all changed. And remember, let's go back to what if the trucks or the Xfinity cars had an exhibition race the week before and then 2 qualifying races during the week like the Cup cars did? Do you think they would have been as rowdy as, say, the truck race turned out Friday night? No, they would have been trying to protect their vehicles to make it to the big show because that's what it's all about.
Josh Reaume took his Daytona truck and he's preparing it for Atlanta.
Right.
He's not going to race it 3 times at Daytona and try to put his hair on fire to wreck that truck because he knows he has to race Atlanta.
Right.
And that's really what it boils down to. You're selfish, man. You're doing what you need to do for yourself. We saw it running the High Line. We saw it with Michael McDowell's move at the end of the race to not get him behind a manufacturer's car. He's going to help get by the 20 because his thought was, look, there's 2 cars in front of us that are leading. It's the 11 and the 18. I've got the 20 car in front of me, the 22 car beside me. If the 11 and 18 wreck,
I'm here.
Where am I going to win the race the best position at?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that was bottom line. This wasn't I'm going to go help the 20.
Right.
This was I'm not going to screw the 22. Oh, my goodness, what manufacturer is under my hood?
Right.
This is what line, what move can I make?
Will help me the
will
most.
help me with the highest chance to bring a front row car to victory lane at the Daytona 500.
Right. And you got to think that
Period.
way. Again,
Yes.
it's all selfish.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. All right. No, one more time out here on MRN Out Loud. We'll come back and look ahead at the Atlanta package.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I'm on that onion and bloom, and it get in my senses like sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
MRN's Classic Races.
Labonte gets crossed up. Labonte goes around. Dale Earnhardt now watches. Labonte spun across the line and got the win.
Spanning 50 years of NASCAR racing.
Barney Hall. There's a beautiful afternoon here in Daytona Beach, and the action will be fast and furious.
Legendary voices, legendary races.
Daryl, simply, what happened?
I just hope he chokes on that 200,000. That's all I can tell you.
MRN's Classic Races, available on MRN.com, iTunes, and your favorite podcast providers.
He did touch. No, he knocked the hell out of me.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there. Whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice, Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
MRN Out Loud back with you now, wrapping up as we put a bow on Daytona and look toward Atlanta. The long talked about, much anticipated new 2019 Aero package sort of makes its debut at Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend.
We've seen a couple of tests, namely they had one at Atlanta, they had one at Charlotte.
That was a tire test at Atlanta with, I think, 4 cars maybe?
We had a handful of cars at Charlotte, but we had the big test for the package down in Las Vegas. And what that was
How did your package work out?
My package is good.
Okay, good.
I have a good package.
Good.
Thanks,
good.
Mom.
Yeah.
The complete package was done at Vegas. And what we're doing now is we have a larger spoiler for more rear downforce.
It looks gigantic compared to the other one.
Well, it's so tall that part of it is clear.
So they can see
They can see through it.
Yeah, to make sure who's behind me.
That's it. And then we add a splitter, larger splitter on the front, which gives more downforce because now we had to balance out the car. We have a little bit of a pan underneath to counteract the splitter to give
the big spoiler
balance.
makes the back end sit down. This big splitter makes the front end sit down. Yeah.
Then we go to the engine tapered spacer, which reduces the horsepower to under 600.
It's less horsepower than they've had in previous years, but more than they had at the All-Star race.
Right, correct. And so we look for a little more throttle response. The only thing we're not running at Atlanta Motor Speedway is the Aero Ducts, which some fans may be used to seeing them at previous Xfinity races.
Like at Indy, for example.
Yep, and what that does is instead of having a brake opening in the nose of the car where the air comes in and cools the brakes, the air actually goes in the nose and comes out directly in front of the tire on each side. And what that's supposed to do is we talk about bubbles. These cars create bubbles, and I get behind
of air.
Yep, the second place car can't get to the first place car because of a bubble. And you're trying to puncture that bubble.
If that air wash is really close to the sides of the car,
Yep.
it makes it tough to get beside him and pass. If it expands wider, there's more of a vacuum in there that a car can go and make a move.
Creating a more of a drafting move, which everybody have seen from Days of Thunder or back in the old.
You can hold it.
Exactly. So what we have is we'll have brake ducts at Atlanta because we use traditional brake ducts. We won't have, that'll be the only thing we won't see. So the first portion of these races is going to be pretty cool because we're going to have a different package at Atlanta, a different package at Vegas, and then we go to Phoenix, a different package back again, and then we go to California, and then we go to Bristol. And Bristol's going to be a really unique where we have all the downforce created from the spoiler and splitter, and then we have the big engine again. We don't have the tapered spacer again because the engine manufacturers had plenty of inventory of these engines. So we're going to have the big engine, the open engine, if you will, at Bristol. it'll be the first time we see that. So
That's
different variances throughout the first 4 or 5 races.
Let me ask you this. One of the things I was interested in is I was talking with Kurt Busch, and he said it's really going to be different at a place like Atlanta because one of the critical things with this is going to be tire wear.
Yep.
And Atlanta is going to chew up tires. It's a very rough surface, and that will go through tires really quick.
Well, the interesting thing about this new configuration is it creates so much downforce, and we still have tire wear at Atlanta, just like you talked about.
A lot.
Handling is still going to play a portion of it, but you're going to see cars fall off that aren't handling as good. You're going to get away with it for the first 5, 8, 10 laps because the car has so much downforce.
Mm-hmm.
Once the tire falls off, then the mechanical handling of that car really is going to pick it up. And that's what the crew chiefs and engineers are going to be working on because these guys are going to try to drive around wide open.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be
before the tires go away.
That's it. It's going to be a smaller Daytona-style draft because the cars put out such a big wake.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hold the car wide open as long as you can. So either
until the tires going away make that impossible.
Exactly right. So it's whoever can hold on to their tires the longest, but it's going to be interesting to see how we get that grip because it's going to be a false sense of security when we start because there's so much downforce on the car. We're really going to have to see how practice plays out, and that's going to be very, very important.
All right, here's another one. Do you expect that you manage this then by babying your tires so that there's something left at the end, or is that just not much of a factor because it's going to chew up the tires so well or so much that it's not going to matter? It's going to be more about the setup in your car and how it's handling.
A lot of variables have talked about with crew chiefs. We can't even get past qualifying yet because NASCAR has already determined that they're not changing the format. Years ago, the trucks went through this transition with this new format in the qualifying that they got rid of, essentially knockout qualifying, if you will. We went back to single truck qualifying because everybody was playing Mickey Mouse games, trying to get off pit road and drafting.
No, you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My claim to fame is I'm the only spotter that has claimed a pole.
Yep. You claimed a pole?
Yep. Ryan Blaney at Michigan was the only truck off pit road to take time.
Oh, yeah. I
and
remember
I was
that now.
Screaming on the radio, go, 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 because we had to get
Nobody else is going.
Nobody else went.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand at the time, but everybody else had stopped behind him because they wanted to play the games about drafting. We were the only truck that took lap times.
And then the clock ran out.
The clock ran out. One truck took time at Michigan in the truck series.
Oh, my goodness. You got a bonus for that, right?
That's what.
No, not so much.
I got to fly home.
Oh, there you go. Great.
That's what we're going to see, and that's what the conversations are about Cup qualifying, because we are going to go faster in a draft, except for at a place like Atlanta where the tires are so grippy. Would you go by yourself at first? A lot of communication, a lot of different strategies, a lot of thoughts. We won't know a good plan until we get about 4 or 5 races in to see how much the draft helps and hurts versus tire wear. It'll be a very good conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm anticipating, like in previous years, and you may feel differently, but when we have any kind of big change like this, at first it does what it's intended to do and bunches the field up. But then these are still smart guys who know how to make cars go fast, and some rabbits will figure it out and jump out in front of everybody.
1,000%. 1,000% true. Woody, I couldn't agree with you more if I were you.
That almost never happens.
Well, and the simple fact is that's what our jobs are. That's what our jobs are, is simply to get these cars to go faster than the next guy, because it's a selfish sport.
Yeah.
I don't care if you can beat me. I want to beat you. I want to tear the place down by myself and lap the field. That's all I care about. And right now in Mooresville, North Carolina, Concord, Kannapolis, Lexington, North Carolina, Welcome, North Carolina, there are race teams on computers right now on simulations trying to figure out a way to absolutely wax the field's rear end.
All right, we'll find out who does that, who's going to be the rabbit, who's going to be playing catch-up. It all starts at Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend. Doubleheader on Saturday with the Trucks and Xfinity Series, Cup on Sunday. Then we go out for the Western Swing, starting with Vegas, then head to Phoenix and Auto Club Speedway in California. We will be right back here next week on MRN Out Loud. Make sure you're here, too. Tell your friends to join us. Don't forget to visit Outback Steakhouse, where if Kevin Harvick gets a top 10, you can get a free Bloomin' Onion. I'm Woody. He's Joey. We will see you right back here next week at MRN.com.